Quiet, thoughtful, reserved, modest, caring, and incredibly kind. That's how Keanu Reeves is described by everyone who knows him. Besides his heartwarming legendary acts, he's also a great actor whose career has spanned 4 decades.
You, working again?
No, just sorting some stuff out.
Which movie's dialogues did he call terrible? And which movie's preparations were boring? What did he hide from the creators of The Matrix? And what did he scare Rachel Weisz with? What did he particularly enjoy about working on The Devil's Advocate? And how did he change the John Wick franchise? In this video, you'll learn about 5 Keanu movies that are absolutely must-see. Five best Keanu Reeves movies. Speed.
Everybody, I'm Jack Traven, LAPD. We have a slight situation on the bus here. Ma'am, if you'll please sit down and deal with this.
No, I won't, and you're scaring the shit out of these people.
Ma'am, please!
The 1994 action film was Jan de Bont's feature film directorial debut, and the screenplay was written by Graham Yost, inspired by the 1985 film Runaway Train. The idea of the future project changed several times while the creators were looking for their main character. This role was offered to Stephen Baldwin, but he turned down the offer because the original script was too similar to Die Hard. Tom Cruise, Bruce Willis, Tom Hanks, Wesley Snipes, and Woody Harrelson were also considered, but when the director saw the movie Point Break, he opted for Keanu Reeves. He was impressed with his height, 6'1", and excellent physique for performing stunts. Here he is, the young cop, the ladies' favorite, thought Jan de Bont. And after meeting the actor in person, he also recognized him as a smart guy with a reserved sense of humor. At first, some movie bosses were against casting Keanu, but after meeting him, they changed their minds, falling under his charm. Keanu, like Stephen Baldwin, felt confused by the similarities to Die Hard diluted with twisted comedy. The actor called the dialogues absolutely awful, and some scenes seemed too unnatural and strained, so he insisted that the script should be rewritten. This is how Jack Traven evolved from a desperate hero who goes against the rules to a polite guy who cares about other people. And when they removed some of the comedic dialogue, the character became more serious. Previously, Reeves had worked with the Los Angeles Police Department for a filming of Point Break, which helped in preparation for Speed as well. He also spent 2 months in the gym to get in shape and trained with real SWAT team members. The director wanted Jack Traven to look strong and in control, and the long hair didn't fit into that concept, so the actor almost completely shaved his head. He left only a millimeter of hair. This was an overkill. The studio producers didn't like it. They even discussed whether to put a wig on the actor, but fortunately, by the time filming began, the hair grew a little bit. As Reeves' co-star, they chose Sandra Bullock. At the audition, they performed together to see if there was chemistry between them. Years later, the actors admitted that they fell in love with each other then, so this chemistry was actually more than just good acting. However, Keanu and Sandra were afraid to make the first step, so they started a long-lasting friendship instead. By the way, all of the celebrities' favorite memories of filming Speed are related specifically to Bullock. He admired her talent, sincerity, humor, and intelligence. The director immediately warned Reeves that in some risky scenes, it was important to see him, not a stunt double. The actor even enjoyed it and ended up doing about 90% of the stunts. Keanu wanted to convey the tension, to show the audience the efforts that must be made to climb under the rushing bus, for example. In some scenes, he really was tied to the bottom of the bus. Sometimes the action scenes looked more dangerous on screen than in reality. For instance, the jump from the Jaguar to the bus, Keanu just had to take a step, as the vehicles were moving at the same speed. But thanks to the camera work and editing, the shots turned out very intense. While filming another scene, Reeves accidentally broke the glass of the bus door. But the director liked the final take and it was left in the final cut. The most famous scene in the movie is the bus jump. To film it, they used a customized bus that could reach high speeds and was equipped with powerful shock absorbers. The driver's seat hung on a mechanism between the floor and ceiling and was pushed back so the driver wouldn't be ejected from the bus. They built a ramp for the jump, but in the first take, the bus jumped so high that it went out of frame. They had to adjust the camera placement and do the take again. One of Jack Traven's unique traits was chewing gum. It wasn't in the script, but during the filming of one of the scenes, Keanu improvised. Jan de Bont agreed that it suited the character's personality and showed that Jack was considering something at the moment. At a preview screening of the film, the audience was delighted, and the creators realized they had made a hit. But at that moment, they didn't even know when the movie would be released. At first, Speed didn't aspire to be a major summer blockbuster, but seeing the reaction of early viewers, the studio gave the go-ahead for a summer release. The film premiered on June 10, 1994, and it immediately became one of the top box office hits. In total, the film grossed $350 million on a budget of $30 million. Meanwhile, Keanu's fee amounted to $1.2 million. Critics were positive about his acting, but the movie awards mostly recognized the work of his co-stars. Reeves was nominated only by Nickelodeon and MTV, with the latter's award going to him and Bullock as Best On-Screen Duo. It took Keanu a while to realize that Speed was a hit. He was in Toronto filming his next project, the low-budget art house film Johnny Mnemonic. The actor spent his childhood in this city, so he enjoyed visiting his mother's house, listening to his sister's jokes about his success in Hollywood, and being busy on the set. Reeves didn't realize his success until a week after the premiere when he saw a bus with his own face. Johnny Mnemonic's producers also suspected something, so they increased the budget and instructed the director to turn the movie into a blockbuster. When asked what the reason was, the movie director said, "When we signed the contract, Keanu Reeves was not yet on the list of Hollywood world saviors. The attempt to turn complex cyberpunk into a pop blockbuster failed, and many scenes had to be cut due to age rating. Critics were merciless to the movie. The box office barely recouped the budget, and the mass audience didn't appreciate the film even after a while." Subsequently, Johnny Mnemonic did enter the cyberpunk classics, becoming a niche movie for enthusiasts. So Speed even influenced another movie in Keanu Reeves' career: The Devil's Advocate.
This case is not about keeping goats or transporting goats or goat licensing. The city was clearly less concerned with the care and feeding of the animals than in the manner with which they were slaughtered.
Objection! Okay.
The supernatural horror The Devil's Advocate, based on Andrew Niederman's eponymous novel, was planned to be filmed with Brad Pitt playing the young lawyer. The other contenders were Edward Norton, Ralph Fiennes, and John Cusack. But back then, they failed to find an actor who could play Satan, and the project collapsed. It got a second wind from the O.J. Simpson trial and its controversial outcome. Taylor Hackford took the director's chair, the plot was finalized, and the role of Kevin Lomax went to Keanu Reeves. The actor was promised $11 million for shooting in the sequel to Speed, but he chose the role in The Devil's Advocate, as he did not want to star in 2 action movies in a row. And above all, he liked the script. After reading it, he told himself he had no right to miss out on this role. Moreover, he agreed to a fee reduction so that the producers could meet Pacino's salary demands. Keanu really wanted to work with the distinguished colleague whose movies he adored. By the way, when Al found out about Reeves' gesture, he donated the same amount to charity. As for Keanu, he earned a total of $8 million, including a percentage from the box office. In preparation for his role, Reeves spoke with attorneys in New York and Boston, attended many court hearings, and visited the San Francisco Bar Association convention. As the actor later admitted, it was boring and long, but important for his work. Filming took place in New York City, and Keanu called it a tour of high-end locations, as the movie's crew worked in some of the city's most prestigious spots: Fifth Avenue, Wall Street, and even Donald Trump's apartment. By the way, mentioning Trump in the film was part of the terms of their contract. The crew also attended a real-world title boxing match with Roy Jones. Promoter Don King, who also appeared in the footage, later said that if he had known in advance that Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves would be present, he would have sold tickets at a much higher price. The creators of the movie also left an interesting Easter egg in the looks of the main character. The attentive viewer may notice that Kevin Lomax's suit becomes darker, which corresponds to the character's internal changes. He first wears a light-colored suit, then switches to increasingly darker shades of gray, before changing to black by the end of the film. Working with Pacino was a kind of an acting exam for Reeves. Al performed each take differently, forcing his young colleague to improvise. And that said, he always kept a close eye on Keanu, assessing how good he was in his role. Director Taylor Hackford said the actors worked well together and helped each other out. However, Reeves modestly denied it, saying, "Who am I to mentor Al Pacino?" Keanu believes that working with Pacino was the most important experience of his career. They broke down the script and rehearsed together. Reeves was fascinated by Al's immersion and development of his character. On the set of The Devil's Advocate, Keanu also had the opportunity to work with Charlize Theron. He praised her and called her his cinematic muse. Charlize, for her part, admitted that Reeves has always been supportive of her. After unsuccessful takes, he would smile reassuringly at her and cheer her up with kind words. Incidentally, their on-screen chemistry in The Devil's Advocate is why the creators of the melodrama Sweet November insisted on inviting the Reeves-Theron duo. Once, while filming a scene on the streets of New York, a fan wanted to get an autograph from the actors, but he was dragged away by security. After the director called cut, Reeves did walk up to the fan and gave him an autograph. The Devil's Advocate was released in October 1997 and earned $12.2 million in its first weekend, finishing second at the US box office, surpassed only by the youth slasher I Know What You Did Last Summer. It grossed over $150 million, but critics gave the movie mixed and lukewarm reviews. Most of the complaints addressed the plot and characters, but the film still won the Saturn Award as the best horror film. Keanu himself believes that this movie is a must-see for his fans. He also pointed out the Matrix franchise and Point Break, but his work with Al Pacino on The Devil's Advocate holds a special place in his heart. The Matrix.
How about I give you the finger, and you give me my phone call?
You disappoint me.
You can't scare me with this Gestapo crap.
When Warner Brothers Studios began work on The Matrix, the role of Neo was offered to Will Smith, but he didn't quite understand Wachowski's concept and turned it down. Johnny Depp, Leonardo DiCaprio, David Duchovny, Tom Cruise, Ewan McGregor, Nicolas Cage, Brad Pitt, and even Sandra Bullock were also considered, but Keanu Reeves proved to be a more suitable candidate. He had already starred in action movies, so he was physically prepared, and his appearance fit the main character's look perfectly. In preparation for the role, the actor read almost all the books the script was based on, lost 15 pounds, and for the scene of awakening in the capsule, he shaved off all the hair on his body, even his eyebrows. Moreover, he kept silent about his injuries so that they wouldn't remove him from the project, as he wanted to perform the stunts himself. When the actor was told that he would need to undergo a 4-month Hong Kong-style martial arts training course, he didn't hesitate to reply, "Yes, that sounds good," despite the fact that he had been suffering from neck pain for several years. After an injury sustained on the set of the movie Chain Reaction, Reeves had to have regular epidural injections. He had a partial loss of sensation and had trouble with balance. To start training, the actor underwent a surgery to get a plate inserted in his neck. The consequences of medical intervention became too obvious to hide. As Keanu was practicing in a neck brace, 2 out of 4 months he couldn't kick, which is why Neo mostly uses his arms and hands in the fight scenes. But Reeves practiced his hand movements diligently and even asked to practice on weekends. Some fight scenes also had to be rescheduled to wait for the actor's full recovery. Consequently, filming began with scenes that did not require much physical effort. However, the fight between Neo and Morpheus in the dojo was filmed before Keanu was ready. He was very frustrated by the fact that he couldn't do a triple kick, but 3 days later, the scene was successfully filmed, and Reeves required only 3 takes. Plus, he improvised by reproducing Bruce Lee's famous movement of rubbing his nose with his thumb. The fight scene between Neo and Agent Smith in the subway was also filmed longer than planned, for 10 whole days. None of the crew expected it would take hundreds of takes. After a phone call between Neo and Morpheus, Keanu actually climbed out of a window with no safety net and no help from stunt doubles. The needles in his ears were also inserted for real with the help of an acupuncturist, although in other places Reeves' body was covered with prosthetics. The helicopter scene involving Neo and Morpheus had stunt doubles except for the close-up shot of the characters' faces. It's also notable that Reeves delivered the longest monologue to that point in his career in the Matrix finale. Previously, he has never uttered more than 5 sentences in a row. Keanu Reeves received a $10 million advance for the first Matrix movie and then another $35 million due to the movie's box office success. The celebrity donated most of that money to a leukemia charity. His sister struggled with the disease for many years and thankfully recovered. For the production of the next part of the franchise, Reeves invested his own $38 million for special effects, which more than paid off. It is reported that for the role of Neo, he earned a total of $150 million. The first installment was released in March 1999 and was not only a box office hit, but was also praised by critics. The most prestigious film awards also noticed the movie. It received a Saturn Award for the Best Science Fiction Film, a BAFTA for Sound and Visual Effects, and an Oscar, the jury of which awarded The Matrix with 4 statuettes at once. The movie won awards for sound editing, film editing, sound mixing, and visual effects. Keanu won the MTV Channel Award for Best Actor. But the main reward for him was a new level of success and fame. Overnight, Reeves went from being just a famous actor to a favorite of millions. He acknowledges this himself, stating that The Matrix changed his life, both personal and creative. Constantine.
This is Constantine. John Constantine. Asshole.
Development of this movie, based on the DC graphic novels Hellblazer, began in 1997. The project switched several directors, and the lead role was planned to be given to Nicolas Cage, a big comic book fan. He even began to prepare. He attended spiritualism and exorcism sessions and drew henna tattoos on his arms. But it didn't work out with him, and the producers switched to Johnny Depp, but he was busy and declined. Mel Gibson and Kevin Spacey were also among the contenders. Then in 2002, Keanu Reeves joined the cast. Curiously, he doesn't fit the description of exorcist John Constantine at all. In the comic books, he looks like Sting, blonde and English. Reeves, on top of being a brunette, spoke with a real American accent. Originally, the screenwriter kept the character's original national identity from the graphic novel, but the script didn't catch the attention of the producers. But when they changed him to be an American, the ideas to make this movie got traction. Reeves' portrayal of John Constantine later became canon in the DC universe. In the comic book, when the character was transported to a dimension where he encounters many of his previous incarnations, one of them looks like young Keanu. Interestingly enough, John Constantine's original creator Alan Moore was disappointed with previous adaptations of his comic book, so he refused to put his name in the credits. However, he asked that his royalties be shared among the other creators of the character. Unlike the original story, this adaptation condemns smoking. Since John often appears in the frame with a cigarette, the creators of the movie decided to protect themselves from accusations of promoting the bad habit. Notably, they added Dr. Leslie Archer to the story, who informs the protagonist that his cancer has progressed and that he doesn't have long to live. Interestingly enough, Constantine smokes 13 cigarettes throughout the movie, which is symbolic.
Things I've beaten. Things most people never even heard of. And now I'm gonna be done by this.
According to the actors, there was harmony and mutual understanding on the set of the screen adaptation. The family vibe was something the camera assistant wanted to encourage by bringing his pet cat for filming. But the animal was so frightened by the unfamiliar surroundings that it kept running away from the cameras. So in the end, they had to invite a professional cat actor, and the scene with Keanu Reeves and Rachel Weisz was shot in one take. Rachel has always spoken of Keanu with admiration, noting his trademark modesty and charisma. But because of him, the actress had a few unpleasant moments during the filming of the bathtub drowning scene. At one point, Reeves held Weisz's head underwater for too long, and she actually began to drown. After that, the director decided to finish shooting the scene from the underwater angle, and here Keanu was replaced by someone from the crew. The demon that attacked John on the street was played by an actor in a costume, but in some moments Reeves had to fight with the air, and the demon was edited in during post-production. Moreover, the shooting took place on the streets of Los Angeles, and the rehearsal of the scene was observed by passers-by. The road was blocked only for the duration of filming. In the movie, you can spot an office that looks a lot like the place where Neo worked in The Matrix. By the way, it wasn't the only thing that reminded Reeves of the popular franchise. On set, he reunited with stuntman Chad Stahelski, who had previously performed stunts for Keanu. The Holy Shotgun is one of the most spectacular weapons in cinema history. It is made of gold and has a specific ornament on the barrel. At the end of filming, Keanu Reeves brought it back from the prop makers and gave it to director Francis Lawrence. Rumor has it that he did the same with the Spear of Destiny. Incidentally, this same blade appeared in the 2004 movie Hellboy. In total, filming lasted 6 months, which was 2 months longer than planned. That said, a lot of the filmed scenes were cut from the final edit. Michelle Monaghan, who played Ellie, was especially unlucky. She had a whole love story with John. Michelle and Keanu filmed a scene of meeting at a club, dialogue after a night out together, and more, but everything was ruthlessly removed. The film was supposed to be released on September 17, 2004, but the premiere was later pushed back to February 2005. The age rating was also changed from PG-13 to R, which the director explained by the religious overtones of the film. It grossed $230 million to the box office on a production budget of $70 to $100 million, which wasn't great for the movie studio. The critics weren't generous with high praise either, but they called Reeves' performance amazing, admiring his charisma and dignity. Meanwhile, the film earned a Saturn Award nomination for Best Horror Film. "This shooting was one of the best. I had a great time working on this project," stated Keanu. He claimed he was willing to reprise the role of Constantine, but underwhelming box office receipts forced movie bosses to postpone and then abandon plans for a sequel. However, production of a sequel was confirmed in 2022 after all. It has been delayed due to the writer's strike, but the producers haven't given up hope of making the movie. John Wick Chapter 4.
I'm going to kill them all. I believe you'll try. But no one, not even you, can kill everyone.
The first installment of the action thriller John Wick was released in 2014 and won the love of the audience. It seems like the simple action with endless shootouts and unrealistic fights is becoming more and more popular with each new sequel. The fourth installment, released in 2023, has garnered 95% positive reviews from viewers on aggregator site Rotten Tomatoes, and professional critics gave it a 94% freshness score. But the franchise about a retired assassin could look very different, as the character was originally written as a 75-year-old man. Incidentally, the title of the first movie initially was Scorn. Only 2 actors were suitable for the idea, Clint Eastwood and Harrison Ford. The script did not reach them, but got into the hands of Keanu Reeves through his agent. The actor loved the character of John Wick, his dark past, and grief from losing the love of his life, as well as the universe created by screenwriter Derek Kolstad. In turn, the idea of casting Keanu, one of the greatest action stars of the last 25 years, appealed to the franchise's creators. So they began reworking the script with the actor in mind. Kolstad spent weekends at Reeves' house for 2 months working on the story. Moreover, they developed not only the main character, but also the other characters to make the whole story come alive. The title was changed too, thanks to Keanu. He liked the name so much that he told everyone about working on the John Wick movie. The producers eventually accepted it and changed the title. Reeves also chose the franchise's directors. He contacted Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, whom he had met on the set of The Matrix, and, impressed by the enthusiasm of the lead actor, they agreed to work on the movie. Chad Stahelski remained the director of all 4 films that came out, while David Leitch focused on producing them. All this time, Chad has been collaborating with Keanu. "We made this movie as if we were preparing a meal. We're the chefs and he's the head chef. I'm a sous chef," said the actor. And this creative process has been the most interesting and fun experience of his career. John Wick Chapter 4 was set in motion right after the premiere of the 3rd installment. At the same time, an estimated premiere date of May 21, 2021 was also announced. However, in 2020, the pre-production phase was suspended and filming was postponed. Despite his extensive experience in action movies, Reeves underwent a 12-week training course in martial arts and extreme driving prior to filming in order to perform most of the stunts himself, particularly since the director intended to shoot in one take for greater impact. "That means I can't mess it up," the actor said, and headed to the gym. The 4th movie picks up on themes from previous installments and weaves them into a new storyline. Reeves boasted that they took the CGI, action, and sets to the next level. Interestingly enough, John Wick utters only 380 words in the entire movie, with a third of the dialogue being one-liners. Once again, Keanu Reeves is responsible for this. He was the one who removed about half of his character's lines from the original script, but the number of people he took the lives of in this installment is 151. There were, of course, fewer stuntmen involved, 35, so everyone died multiple times. As a thank you for their work, Keanu gave them all t-shirts with a number of their deaths in the movie and a detailed description. Also, all stuntmen received a $10,000 Rolex watch with a message of gratitude. By the way, fight coordinator Scott Rogers was proud that, with the exception of a few bumps and bruises, there were no concussions on the stunt team. One of the stuntmen, Vincent Bullion, shared a few stories of Keanu Reeves' kindness. For example, once the actor thought he hit one of the stuntmen too hard and was genuinely scared. He immediately began to apologize, even though it was just a slight touch on the stunt double's face. Keanu also always made sure to provide the team with the best food possible, thanked them for their work, and invited everyone to the premiere via private message. One of John Wick's antagonists in the movie was played by Scott Adkins. He's a big fan of Keanu Reeves and the entire franchise, so he was over the moon for the opportunity to fight his idol. Bill Skarsgård, who played Marquise Vincent d'Agremont, was also happy to work with Keanu. He has been a fan of Reeves since he was 8 years old when he saw the first Matrix, and once he met him in person, he admired his work ethic, politeness, and concern for others. Interestingly enough, the fight scene on the stairs leading up to the Sacré-Cœur Basilica was filmed over 7 nights. Sometimes the actors got wet in the rain, and at times they had to pause filming to let the tourists through. The draft edit of the movie was 225 minutes long, and the final cut was 169 minutes long. The scenes in Berlin and Paris were deleted, as well as some dialogue between John and the tracker that Keanu Reeves thought was too long. It premiered in March 2023, and Keanu wore blue ribbons at the screening with the other stars of the movie. They did so in memory of actor Lance Reddick, who suddenly passed away a few days before the premiere. There was also applause in the cinema hall in his honor, and the end credits began with the words, "In memory of Lance Reddick." According to unofficial reports, Keanu Reeves' fee amounted to $15 million, but since he owns a share of the franchise, it's likely the revenue is much higher. He received a Saturn Award nomination for his role. The art direction and editing was also nominated, and the film itself was up for an award as Best Action or Adventure Film. The stunt team of John Wick Chapter 4 claimed a Screen Actors Guild Award, MTV Channel celebrated the fight scenes, and the Golden Globe nominated the movie in the Cinematic and Box Office Achievement category. The movie indeed collected a decent box office, more than $440 million with a budget of $90 million. In one of the promotional interviews, Reeves said it was the role of his life. Considering the celebrity's filmography, that's a bold statement. Meanwhile, fans have called John Wick Chapter 4 one of the greatest action movies of all time. Which Keanu Reeves movie do you consider the best?